Okay, Ginger, we're live.
Sure, why not? I'm always up for something phenomenal.
Alright, so you want yourself here, I'm going to plug in. My computer wants to.
I think so.
Oh, okay. Like Hannah, like lost You're only excited once.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. We'll start with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ginger Shank,
Here.
Frankie Schwartz.
Here.
Roger Tucker.
Here.
Sarah James.
Here.
Jeff Schneider.
Here.
Deanna Meyers.
Here.
And Rich Hart.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And Ginger, before we go, just a reminder when talking to your microphones, our microphone for our live feed's a little bit further away, but it is under a speaker here, so it should be able to pick things up as long as we talk into our microphones. Thank you.
Next, we have amend or adopt the agenda.
This is what I need to make a motion to. I move that we amend the agenda by moving the personnel sheet out of the consent agenda and putting it in new business.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to amend the agenda and move the personnel sheet down to new business. Is there any other question or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The board norms are on your computer to glance through and to remind you of our agreement of conducting business according to those norms. Next, we have recognitions.
Yes, tonight we have with us the WISE Foundation and representatives for WISE Foundation. The WISE has done a tremendous amount for teacher grants and student scholarships over the years, so thank you, Carmen Schultz and John Klinger, for representing the WISE.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be official.
Oh, you're, I'm fine. It is good. That's great. You guys look great.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Very good.
Well, and we appreciate the recognition and the support of the district. As a nonprofit, we couldn't do it without you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have patron comments, and we have Mike Shaw.
I was told that you guys wanted handouts.
Always.
Just to take a look to see what we're doing. or students anyway. I'm not doing that stuff anymore. So good evening. My name is Mike Shaw. This is Rebecca Jones. We are science teachers at the high school. We are also co-sponsors of the ACES team. ACES stands for Academic Challenge in Engineering and Science, formerly known as the WISE team, Worldwide Youth in Science and Engineering. So this is what we've been doing for this year anyway, starting in January. We asked some of our top students to sign up to take college level tests to compete with other schools in our area to see how well we do with respect to the other schools. So we have 3 competitions possibly. One's regionals, that's down in ECC. We travel down there to test. The last 2 would be sectionals and state, which this year they were virtual because of COVID. We haven't done this the last 3 years, so we are a little rusty on our procedures. But we've been doing it since 2016, and we've had pretty good results. In February, we went down to East Central College to take the first tests, the regional tests. The students choose to take 2 out of 7 tests. The 7 tests include biology, computer science, chemistry, graphic engineering, help me out here, English, physics, and mathematics. So those are the 7 tests that they can take, and they have to choose 2 to test it. Now, if you just listen to those subjects, they're pretty rough subjects, but these are college level tests that they are taking. So our competition for the regional, the first test, the regional test, is Washington. We have never beat Washington before in the time we've been doing this. This year, I'm proud to say, come on, Vanna. We took first place this year.
That's awesome.
That allowed us to move to the sectional competition, which was virtual, so a lot more competition. And I'm proud to say that our kids did an awesome job. Second place. We moved on to the state competition last month, in the middle of the month. It was, again, virtual. In this competition, we say state competition, but the state competition includes Missouri and Illinois. So we had over 40 schools competing in the large school division. We ranked 18th in those schools, which I would say that is a great achievement for what we've been doing. So tonight, I invited the medalists from any of the competitions to stand up here and be recognized. Come on up, ladies and gentlemen, if you were a medalist. So I know all the other schools in the district recognize their top-notch students. I haven't been to enough board meetings to know how often the high school was able to recognize their students. But the 28 students that we took to these competitions, they're the top-notch students. These students are the medalists that we had for the competitions. So what I'm going to do, starting with you, if you don't mind, step forward, say your name, and tell them what you medaled in.
I'm Katie Schromick. I medaled in engineering design twice. I got 5th place in state.
5th place in state.
Second
That's what
place
she said.
in the sectional.
I'm McKenna. I took the math and physics test and I medaled 3rd in math and regionals.
I'm Abby Palmer and I took biology and English tests and I medaled 3rd in the sectional English test.
My name is Rachel Moore, and at regionals I took 3rd place in chemistry, and in sectionals I took 3rd place in biology.
My name is Roy Briggs, and I medaled for both English and computer science at state. Do you remember the positions?
3rd computer science, 5th in English.
That sounds right.
Yep. You just said state.
Yeah, state.
Yes.
Yeah.
Regionals, sectionals?
Yeah, regionals, I medaled.
First place in computer science, regionals and sectionals.
Wow.
I knew
And
that.
second place somewhere in English.
English, yeah.
Yes. So,
Awesome.
top-notch students, they did an awesome job. For the people who didn't show up, I have Ian Bassick medaled in math and physics, Luke Roush in chemistry, Grant Beekner in biology and English, and Owen Thompson in engineering graphics. And Abby, you just said, is Abby here?
Yeah.
You said, I feel like I'm missing one, so let me pass it. Katie, Grant, Rachel, Thompson. That's it. So we got it. Thank you guys for your effort and work. It's greatly appreciated.
Great job.
Any questions from you guys?
No, just thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
No. One, yeah, two.
It was a young crowd this year, so we're looking forward to more success in the future.
3 sophomores. Well, Ian's a senior too, right?
Ian was a senior, yes.
I only know, most of those kids.
You're getting old.
Great job.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, parents, as well. Thank you.
Thanks.
We'll move on to the superintendent reports.
All right, Dr. Stanek for our care days before after school care program and all that's going on there.
That's a tough act to follow. Good evening. I was just going to spend a few minutes tonight talking about our after-school program, Latchkey, and our Care Day. And the picture up front was taken at Care Day 2 weeks ago. We did a rock investigation, so I just love the faces on the kindergartners when they were, examining and figuring out what's going on. Our goals is to increase access and connectivity with mental health resources for students and families, and emphasize trauma-informed within staff as measured by the number of students accessing mental health professionals. I'm going to start out with Latchkey. Our Latchkey program provides before and after school care for district students kindergarten through 8th grade. We open at 5:30 in the morning and we run till 7:40, and then again from 3:15 at the end of the day till 6 p.m. So the ladies that we have are very dedicated. They do an amazing job. They're there before everybody gets there and they're there after everyone leaves. We have 5 staff members. And right now we have our locations at Rebecca Boone Elementary, Daniel Boone, and Warrior Ridge. The Blackhawk, if there's any Blackhawk students, we have about 7 or 8 Blackhawk students, and they come to the Daniel Boone site. And then during Latchkey, there's a lot of STEM-based lessons, outdoor play, academic, homework help, hands-on crafts, games, problem-solving skills. And we have a lot of our A+ tutors that come in and help volunteer and help and hang out with the kids. And so this year, we are state licensed in 2 out of our 3 sites. That was a requirement, which I'll explain later, with our SAC grant, our School Age Community Grant that we got for Care Day. One of the requirements is that they want us to be state licensed. So right now, we are licensed at Warrior Ridge and Rebecca Boone, and we're currently in the process at Daniel Boone to get our license. We have 5 staff members, like I said before, and that helps to meet our 1:16 ratio. So 1 staff member to every 16 students per the state guidelines. And then also during Latchkey, we do provide a snack in the afternoon. Our enrollment and attendance. This year we have 167 students enrolled, up from 140 last year. This is broken down, the enrollment and attendance is broken down by AM and PM sessions. So this is the AM session, and we have 1 staff member working in the mornings at each site. And then our PM session, you can see our numbers increase, and we do have 2 staff members at Daniel Boone and Warrior Ridge. Right now, Rebecca Boone is kind of on that cusp. So with Latchkey, it just seems like they just keep enrolling. So financial overview: we have a working budget of $85,000. Our year-to-date revenue was $74,789. total revenue of $10,211. And the expenses, the working budget of $115,237, or expenses of $76,748, and a surplus of $1,958. And that was talking partly due to the added staff member that we added. Our Care Day. So our Care Day program was developed due to the implementation of a 4-day school week that began in the 1920 school year. Our program is here to support the needs of our working parents in the community as we strive to provide a safe and supportive environment that encourages social, emotional, physical, and intellectual growth for our students. Care Days are available every Monday except professional development days. We're located at Rebecca Boone Elementary. We run the regular school day times from 7:40 to 3:15, but we do have latchkey available before and after if they would need it. Care Day itself is free for the students to attend, but there is a fee if they would attend latchkey before or after. We have 4 staff members. We have 133 students enrolled. We have an average of about 65 students at each Care Day session. And we have a few regulars, but then we also have just some that kind of bounce back and forth. So we're always seeing new faces and new enrolling students. We do have breakfast and lunch served during Care Day, and it is free along with the USDA grant that's going on right now. We have a lot of high school helpers that are working to get their A+ hours, which is very nice because we try to do a lot of STEM-based projects, so we need those extra sets of hands to help shape little minds, I should say. Our grant award for our Care Day was the School Age Community Grant, or the SAC grant. That grant, we're in year 2. We will get $99,000 over 3 years. And in order to get the grant, what we wrote it for was to implement STEM programming during Care Day. It also helps cover the staffing, supplies, and professional development. And allows the program to be free of charge for all district students. Also some additional grants that I wrote for the Care Day was the After School Success Grant, which was a Chamber of Commerce grant. It was $5,000, and with that we were able to team up with the Chamber of Commerce, and we purchased 3 hydroponic tower gardens. So to bring that another STEM lesson into practice. So Jana Oliarnik was the one who helped me write the grant and helped get this set us up with the Juice Plus tower gardens. And the kids are loving them. We have grown anything from lettuce to chives to strawberries, which are new. We learned you had to self-pollinate the strawberries, so that's kind of interesting. The kids are learning to do that. So it's very, very interesting. Do you think we could do this? We did grow sunflowers. We found out they work really well, except they get heavy very quickly. So we pulled them out, and now they're in the raised beds outside. A second grant was the Arts and Education Grant, which was a $500 grant. And during this, we partnered with Burning Creations Pottery Studio and to implement a paint pour project. So on that day, the studio came to Care Day, and every Care Day student got to create the paint pour activity, which was very messy but very fun. And that was funded by the Arthur and Helen Bayer Foundation, and it was a Boeing Employee Community Fund. So it was great fun, but very, very messy. Care Day financial overview in year 1. Again, it was at $32,997. At the end of the grant, my DESE contact reached out and said, if people do not spend all of their money on the grant, we have the right to give money to other grantees. He said, do you need any additional money? Absolutely. So we got an extra $27,060 for funding last year. I don't know if we'll be that lucky again this year, but we will find out. We're getting our final paperwork. It has to be turned by June 30th. So maybe we'll be lucky and get extra money again this year. But we are guaranteed the $32,997. And also again for next year. So next year will be our year 3, and then hopefully the SAC grant will be available where we can reapply and hopefully get another 3 years. Through Care Day, we have quite a few community partnerships. The University of Missouri Extension Center, Jolynn Hombach comes in and does health, nutrition, and gardening lessons. The Warrenton Aquatic Center has been coming in and doing safety around water, also CPR, first aid, that kind of thing. 4-H Soccer for Success. Warren County Chamber of Commerce helped with the entrepreneurship activities of the hydroponic gardens. St. Louis Rhythm Collaborative came in and gave tap and ballet lessons to the kids. That was fun to watch. St. Louis Dairy Council, they do the Adopt a Cow and Grass to Glass dairy program. And the St. Louis Magic House has STEM programming, a lot of virtual programs that are free. And the local animal shelters, we've teamed up, and the kids have done some service learning with, we've made dog ropes, chew toys, those kind of things, where then they've been donated to the local animal shelters. That's all I have. What questions do you have for me?
I'm glad that you shared all the community partnerships, because I was going to ask you. If you didn't, because I know about a couple of them, but I knew there had to be more. And I think that's so awesome that you've reached out to the community and got people to come in. And it's not just those kids have a place to go on Mondays. That's not it at all. They're learning things and they're hands-on, and I love that STEM stuff that you're doing with them, and also the grants that you've gotten. I know you've worked really hard, and we thank you for that, because you know we're always watching our pennies, right? So thank you. I just wanted to say that's awesome, and I'm glad we have that offered for the community for people who need that on Mondays. So
Thank you. I have two initial questions.
Okay.
The first one is, how is the latchkey attendance? I mean, like, the enrollment is so high, and then the attendance is like less than 10% of who's enrolled. So are 167 people paying for latchkey, and then 90% aren't using it?
So they only pay for when they attend.
Okay.
So, and we are one of the few districts that do that. Some districts, they're locked in. If they say they're going to come 3 days a week, they're locked in and pay 3 days a week, no matter if they're there or not.
Okay.
In Warren County, it is only you pay when you come. So, and some of them are very sporadic. It might be last minute call, oh, I need somebody to stay tonight, or, you know, that kind of thing.
The other question I had was, you referenced the CSIP goal, that this is somehow connected to mental health, and that it would increase the number of students accessing mental health professionals, but I didn't hear anything about that happening. Is that really connected, or how?
So
how
it is going back in the works.
Okay.
COVID kind of stopped that. So we had the very first year, we had haircuts, we had the dentist was coming in and those kind of things. They're slowly starting. I've been reaching back out to them to see if we can get them to come back in too. So I'd like to bring them back into it. Also, we do have some Crider workers that come in and work with their students on Mondays, so that's a great time, so they're not missing out on their class time. They do get upset when they get pulled out of a STEM activity, but I'm like, that's okay, we'll save it for you, it'll be back. So that's what we like to work in, a lot of social emotional lessons.
Yeah, no,
try to tie those in.
I wanted to hear more about it, because I do care about mental health, and all of those things I know help with mental, all the fun activities help with that, but I just wanted to hear more about it. Thanks.
Well, I knew when this program started a couple of years ago that you were the perfect choice for that, and thank you for all you do, because that was amazing.
Well, thank you.
Lots of people need to know that's going on, because that's amazing. And I've watched it on Facebook and Twitter, some of the things that you guys do too, and it's just awe-inspiring, the program that you got going. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We really enjoy it. It's always messy, but
I can tell that.
Are other schools doing care days?
Right, other 4-day school weeks, yes. It's starting to pick up more and more, trying to do something on the called fifth day. It's an alternative learning day that more 4-day weeks are picking up, but others are not. Others just get relied on the community. I think some really small districts, 300 kids or 400 kids, it might be 5 kids that come sort of thing. So they just work with the family or church or something to get that taken care of. But we are seeing more and more, like New Bloomfield and some places like that are, over 1,000 kids typically have some sort of offering on the 5th day.
Just curious if it was happening elsewhere.
That's at least what I just kind of know. I mean, I'm sure there's more details to that, but that's just kind of what because we do kind of get some emails from 4-day week schools and collaborate a little bit about what's going on, but that's what I know.
through the grant, the Missouri professional development that was part of what I mentioned, and they teamed us up with the Missouri After School Network, which I didn't know before this that it existed. And there's a lot of professional development through there. So there was what they called the MOSAC conference, which was in November that I attended, and it's basically all the schools around Missouri that have after school, before and after school programs. So it was nice to hear what everybody else is doing. When I did talk to a lot of the different school districts, they've never heard of having, a 4-day school week and then being able to offer care on a day that we weren't in school. but there was a lot of districts that were going to the 4-day school week, so they were very interested and eager to see how, as a district, we were doing this, to see what they could do as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our homeless program evaluation.
That's correct. That was supposed to be given by Dr. Jones tonight, and unfortunately he couldn't be with us. So you have that there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on that, if I can.
I did have one question. It was talking, so if you go all the way down the document,
Not the PowerPoint.
not the PowerPoint, if you go all the way at the bottom of the document, there are 21 students that are required to take the access assessment, and we still have 8 who haven't, but they're being monitored. I just didn't know, like, if they're being required to, but they haven't. Is that something that we eventually, like, make sure that they take this?
Yes, we track all of that, who's taking what assessments. It's that'd be for our English language learners
Yeah.
test, and that's determining their service level, if they're going to be monitored or not. And so, yes, we'll be tracking that on students that need to take that assessment.
Okay.
Because that impacts their services they receive.
Absolutely. I didn't know if it's like, if they're being monitored, that counts. I just wanted to make sure that we were following.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting that our number of homeless students is down from last year, because I know we have such a housing shortage in Warren County in general, and the surrounding area too, to some extent. And so I just thought that was interesting that that number was down. Kind of surprises me. And then the foster care number is almost doubled, which,
Yeah. Well, I think if I remember from last year's presentation, homelessness is a difficult thing for the district to track.
It is.
So I'm wondering,
It's very true.
because even if a student is doubled up, like the parents have moved in with their parents to save money or to, stuff like that, that family's considered homeless, but, if we don't know that that's happened, then we're not able to track it.
right.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer of why that's decreased. I think it's a good thing. People have more permanent residents. And
I was
that's
just
bad.
surprised to see the numbers going down. Definitely not a bad thing.
Sure. But we still have 174 kids that are,
I know.
that's not a small number either.
So hopefully it's that the number's gone down and not that we haven't tracked it. Like
Right,
hopefully-
right.
There are 133 currently. The 174 was last year.
Oh, I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong, yep, thank you, yep. Yeah, it's been trending downward the last couple of years, it looks like. 228, 174, 133.
Does anybody else have any more questions about that part of the agenda?
We're still providing transportation for some homeless students who don't live.
Yes,
who aren't staying in a district.
We're required to do that. Students
Right.
under the McKinney-Vento Federal Act,
Right.
they can stay in their school of origin, and we're supposed to require to still transport those students, but we do split that cost with whatever district they're in.
Right, that's what I thought, there was some kind of cost sharing with the other district that's involved, so.
Does that go on until they graduate?
Well, they're on the homeless list for a year. So
Okay.
every year they're on the homeless list and they're reevaluated at that time. The idea, and I think that the spirit of the law is to allow students to not, you're homeless, now you go to this school, then you're homeless and go to that school, and you have to bounce around.
Yeah.
The idea is to have continuity of instruction and learning for the students to stay in their school of origin while they're getting settled in their situation. So that's,
I really like the spirit behind it. I just didn't know what the end game was for them.
Okay, we will move on to the financial report.
Thank you, Lucy. This is just our monthly update real quick. So our revenues year to date, so we're much higher than last year at 93%, mainly because we received the ESSER funds already. That's really bumped that up. Then expenses are down mainly because of staffing. We're we just haven't had people fill jobs, so just lower on the expense side. Fund balance is up at 42%, and if you take the ESSER money out, we're at 33 compared to 28, so we're better positioned. And again, that's kind of inflated from the federal stimulus money we received. Here's just kind of the chart version of that. The orange line at the top is this year compared to the last 2 years. So that's, as you can see, up. The revenues, so local money, that's a lot to do with, one, we receive local money, then Prop C money is come in much higher than before. That's a statewide sales tax, but that goes in the local account. And then county's about the same. State, we're up slightly there, and about 400,000. So that's good. Then of course the federal's a big number. That's from the stimulus money, for the most part. And we have all ESSER 2 and 3 in the bank, so that is here. April expenses, salaries are up slightly as we gave raises, and as we expected. Benefits, same thing, and there's increase in benefit costs. Purchase services are up a little bit for special education services, and supplies are up as well a little bit, about 300,000.
When you say we gave raises, we just gave a step.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. So remember, 2 years ago we didn't do anything. We froze. No one got it. It made exactly the same as it made before. So, but we did give steps, which cost more.
How many questions?
That's all.
I had,
Sorry, go ahead.
I read the other day that the legislature funded transportation at a higher
Right, that's
amount
gonna
for
be
next
great.
year. Do you have any idea how
Sure.
much that's gonna
So
help
the
us?
governor signs that, that'd be a $600,000 to $700,000 increase to our revenue coming in. So that's a really big deal, because transportation's been funded at about 41% this year, which has been higher than before. Before it was at 30%.
I thought it was
Right.
in the low 30s.
Right, so the district has been, really supporting transportation costs, because we have to. And so now this is gonna really help our budget next year. Now, they're saying it's just one-time funds, but we'll just take it 1 year at a time.
Every little bit helps.
Absolutely gonna help us for sure. The budget's definitely in flux right now. Of course, the governor still has to sign this and still has to go forward, but we're anticipating that to be a positive thing for us, yes.
Is the idea of also raising the base teacher pay, is that also something that every year the governor would have, like everyone would have to agree?
Yeah, that'd have to go through, my understanding is this is a one-time thing, and then after this, we're on our own. But that's why we're not adjusting our salary schedules and just paying the stipend to get people up to the 38,000. We wouldn't be paying, we're not changing our salary schedules, so we don't know that this is guaranteed to be here forever. This is just, that they've said it's one time, we're gonna get you up to 38,000 this year, and who knows what the future holds. Hopefully they fund this forever, and we're very grateful for this. I'm thankful that they're doing this for our people. But the long-term planning of this, we don't know for sure how long this will last, or if it'll last more than just next year.
And the district has to match part of the
Correct.
difference, right?
Correct.
To get to 38.
Right, so it's 70% from the state, 30%
That's
from the district.
right. I just wanted to make
And
sure.
for us, that won't be a large amount, but it'll be some. But it'll just be our step 1 and step 2, essentially.
Because those are the only ones under
Right.
30.
I think you answered the question I had. That was around the ESSER funds,
Yeah.
both 2 and 3. I think you said they were all in the bank, because I know they've come in
Yes.
kind of waves.
Yes.
So we have everything.
Yeah, we've received all of our operational funds. Now, capital projects, you have to spend the money and they get reimbursed. So after we start doing our projects, we'll be spending money and get reimbursed for that. So operational funds are in the bank, but our capital projects, we still have not received.
Thank you.
Most of that'll happen this summer,
Yes.
probably, right? While
Correct.
we're doing things
Correct.
when school's not in session.
Correct.
So the operational ones that are in the bank already, those are covering the teacher positions or the support positions
Right.
for the next 2 years that we still have contracted.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's correct.
So we'll be spending those down.
Right, so we should see a deficit budget in the next year, and then hopefully we just get a balanced budget that last year, but in next year we'll be a deficit.
Does anybody have any other questions? We'll We'll move down to the consent agenda.
If you want to refresh your board docs, that we've taken the personnel sheet and moved that down, so just hit refresh, it should show the new consent agenda.
I move the approval of the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Are there any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes.
Now you're gonna sit around and stay for minutes. For the work session.
Right.
For the work session, go ahead.
Trying to figure out how to do that. I don't know.
Thank you.
I didn't notice. How do we, yeah.
She's
I think
gonna
last
mark
time
it.
I'm just gonna mark you.
Okay.
Last
I'll
time
mark
I
you.
asked for a roll call.
You were too slow. Keep us straight, Lucy. It's your job. And you do it well. Thank you. We will move to old business, policy approvals.
Right, there are 6 policies here. The first 2 basically just adjust our policy to realign to the negotiated agreement we approved last month. Then we have an interdistrict transfer policy, which creates just a single date for when people will be deciding when they when interdistrict transfers would be approved instead of having 2 dates through the year, we just have 1. Then the lactation support, this is a required policy, but we might have some conversation about that on identifying a lactation space in every building for our new moms. And then we have the corporal punishment. There's just something in the notes section there. I'm not sure why this one even needed to be updated, but that's what MSBA recommended that we do. And then the same with seclusion and restraint. So it's just aligns to the new state law. So happy to have some discussion on these.
So I would like to focus on EBDC, which is the lactation policy that we are talking about. So I had some concern about this policy. I have subbed before and had to find a place to pump, so I just like personally have experienced the need to have a space to be able to help support feeding my baby. And so I was paying lots of attention to this, like what does it say, how is this going to help our staff or students, because this is in order to help anyone who would have that need. And then also it's supposed to be open to the public, to create a space for the public to be able to pump or feed their baby. And so if you read through the policy, the thing that I'm concerned about is, I think that it's a great policy. I don't know how we're going to do it in every building, the way our buildings are currently placed, like the rooms and the accommodations that this policy has. And so I am wondering if the way that it's worded currently, if we're going to be able to uphold it. It says that there's supposed to be a designated room in each school building other than a restroom, exclusively for lactation activities such as breastfeeding or expressing milk. Ensure that the designated room is near a sink with running water and a refrigerator for storage, and that the room has ventilation, a door that may be locked, a work surface, a chair, and convenient electrical outlets. Sounds great. Like as a substitute teacher, there are some times that I didn't take a job because I didn't know where I was going to pump. And I have pumped in closets, I have pumped in different places, and this is not, I'm not just talking about this teacher, and I'm not saying anything negative. I got the job done, and I actually did feel supported. But to the idea of having a room to be able to go, that would be helpful to a mom. Some people, they use their office, some have figured out different ways, but I don't know if we would actually be able to have a room in every building that is for just that. And that the concern was that it says that this room is exclusively used for lactation activities.
But I thought I read somewhere. I thought I read somewhere though that it doesn't have to be exclusively though. I thought
That's the thing, is that districts are trying to
Balance.
figure out what that means.
Right.
And I don't want to vote on a policy that we're never going to be able to do unless we figure out what does this mean for our school, because there may be moms listening that are teachers or students or trying to figure out what does this policy mean. They might read it and think, oh my goodness, Warren County Arthur is going to have a room in every building for me to do this. And I want to make sure that we figure out what does this policy mean for our district, so that way if someone's listening, they do know what we're doing, what we mean by this policy.
From personal experience, I was thinking, I worked at Six Flags, and of course we had lost children, and that's where ladies would come, and we always had a place set up down there too. And talk about having a refrigerator, private locked door. Most school buildings, though, that I've been associated with, next to the teacher's lounge has a closet, and it's usually pretty large because it's for storage.
Yeah, it
that
has
could
to
fit.
have ventilation, it has to have all of these different things, according to this policy.
I think what we can do is when we say exclusively, is that, identify the space, and when when someone needs to use it, that's the only activity that's happening in that room.
Right.
And with every building, we need to identify what that room is, and if somebody had, whatever's happening else in that room gets trumped by a person that needs to use it for lactation activities. And so they would then be, whatever's happening, if it's an office or whatever, they would be told to leave, and then the person that needed to use it for lactation could. Because I'm thinking like our facilities like transportation or maintenance department, or even this building, we would have to add on a room. There's just not extra space to guarantee that to be there. But we could identify an office and say whatever's happening in that office, that person has to leave. This is our lactation room for now. Then have access to the water, ventilation, fridge, and all those things. But you're right. So it is going to be a debate over the word exclusively. What does that really mean?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like you. I know all the ladies in our building that, in my experience, may do with whatever, and we made sure that it was respectful and it was private and so forth, because it's unfortunate this is something that's not going to affect a lot of people, but it is an important part that we respect, that we can have that taken care of, but yet it happens very little at that level.
Yeah, it matters to the moms.
Oh, no doubt.
So that's what I
And it
think,
should.
I want to make sure
And it
that
should.
we do this well.
No doubt.
And especially if we ever have students that would have that need, I want them to feel supported. Something that, as I was talking to Dr. Klingensman outside of this meeting, trying to figure out how do we problem solve, because if there isn't a designated room, because some people could say, well, a teacher could do it in their classroom. Well, paras don't have a designated class. Even if they work in that classroom, they don't necessarily have access all by themselves at times. And so I want to make sure that even if it's a food service worker or anything like that, any other person, that they would know that they have a space that they could pump. And I have always felt supported. I've always felt like I could talk to a principal or get teachers have given me their classrooms in the past, and so I do know that people do support women with this need. However, I want to make sure that this policy, that we're communicating what that room is, and something that he had suggested was making sure that if the subfolder has the classroom or the space, if you in one of the paragraphs, because there's like what to do in a fire, what to do in this and that. So a sub, instead of them having to go around asking all these questions, they would know what number to call to, because they need to provide a minimum of 3 opportunities during the school day at intervals agreed upon. And there's words to say, utilize your lunch. There is like ways to protect the fact that this is an employee, that this is a student. It says things about students that counselors are supposed to work with students to protect instruction time. So there's a lot of things to protect the time. But yeah, I think that it'd be good if we communicated with the substitute teachers in their folder where they can go. The only thing is that I don't know how we're going to deal with this for the public, because it's also supposed to be open to the public.
If they're on school property for some activity.
Absolutely, yeah. So so I don't know how we're going to do that.
So can I interject just a little
Always.
bit? So I'm kind of leaning more toward the exclusive use of a room, right? I don't like the idea of someone having to knock on a door and say, hey, can I use this room for this purpose, right? I don't want them to feel like they're putting somebody out, right? So in the accommodations for this room, like the sink and things of that nature, like ensure that the designated room is near a sink with running water. It doesn't really say it has to be in there, right?
Yeah.
So how many, and it says school building, so what are we considering a school building, right? Is the maintenance, is the bus garage a school building? So technically, yes. So
Right, yeah, I think all that would be.
Right, so how many buildings does the, are we
District
looking
have?
at?
Let's see, so we've got our 5 main schools, then we've got the Alpha Academy, or early childhood, in this facility, I'll count that as one.
Yeah.
Then, but really they're separate, because you have to actually physically leave, there's not a hallway through. So then, bus garage, and then we've got technology, maintenance, new food service facility, potentially that's going on board. Did I say Alpha already?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then field house.
Field house, right.
So we're looking at 12-ish buildings. And all of those have public restrooms, right? So would that be adequate for,
So it's other
for the
than-
water?
For the sink?
So if we were to construct a 10 by 10 nursing room in each building, or if that would be our goal, right? We're gonna construct a 10 by 10 nursing room, our budget is $15,000 per room, right? We're gonna get John Chandler to build us these rooms for $15,000 a piece, right? Just 2 by 4 walls, two by 4 walls, ceiling, and provide I'm just.
Right, but I think that'd be, in a lot of places, an exterior room, like outside the building. Because like this office space, I don't know where we would build that, without like cutting into this room or something.
So I mean, this is law though, right? I mean,
It's law.
right,
And
so I mean, we really don't have a choice is what I'm.
Well, I think the word exclusively is debatable. And so like when we reached out to MSB and their legal opinion on this, they said they didn't know either. And we won't know until someone sues.
Well, what's the definition for exclusively?
Right.
Yeah, because the question, like as a nursing mom, that sounds like a dream, to be able to know that any space, if I were to be watching a kid at a basketball tournament for the full day, to know that I don't have to go out to my car, you know, and just to know that there is a space to feed my baby.
I don't see the term exclusively being debatable, you know, you just, Webster Dictionary, the exclusion of others only and solely, right?
Sure, so you're by yourself in the room.
Yes, so this.
But what room though? I mean,
This
this question
room
is, do you have to have it to no other, I can't use it as a storage facility, I
So-
can't use it as an office, I can't use it, or
Correct.
can I only use that for, listen, I'm not against it,
Right.
but I'm just saying it's gonna be a big expense.
Right, and
So,
how,
in office settings, right, when, in
Sure.
construction, there are designated nursing room, mother rooms is what they're designated rooms, that's the only thing that happens in there. They're, if you will, quote unquote, exclusively
Right.
mother rooms.
Right.
So,
And I'd love to do that. I mean, and if the board wants to spend the money to do that, we can get bids on what it would cost to build that and do that. I'm okay with that. But just know that it will be an expense to do. And it's something we could do, and most likely would be in addition to the building. I would think initially, my thoughts on that would be in addition to the building. And I would love that. I think it'd be a wonderful thing to do. But is that how we want to spend our money, I guess?
I think it's worth finding out what are our options.
Sure.
In the sense of like, okay, here's option A. This is like for the board to hear. Here's the rooms that each building has been designated. Like for us to know this is what's currently being offered to support the policy that we have. Because like this is our job, is to figure out that our policies are, what are our policies? Are they supporting what our schools are supposed to have? And then also following the law. And we have to make sure that our budget, that it fits within our budget. And so I don't know if we'd ever want to hear at a future meeting, okay, here's option A, we have spent $0, or we spent this much on the refrigerators that would need to be, because there are concessions, there needs to be fridges, not just the sinks, there would have to be a fridge in each building for this to be able to be stored. And so, like, here's option A, the lowest cost, and then here's a few other things. And so I don't know if that's something that the board would want.
Well, I'm seeing here in this policy, we're required to have a policy adopted before July 1st. So if we're gonna kick the can down the road, so to speak, and figure out what our options are, we'll still have to decide next month.
Right, and I could probably have something back for us next month. I don't know if I'll have hard bid numbers or anything, but but we can at least get a general, or we can approve it and
But if
work on
you
it.
could come and say, for instance, okay, at Rebecca Boone, we know a place that would fit this, that would work anytime it was needed, you know, I mean, like,
Sure,
maybe
but
in some of the buildings.
Right, but our more crowded buildings, they're gonna use every quarter of inch of space they have for students and small groups.
Right.
And things like that, so
I don't think the problem would necessarily be finding a space, but the problem would be leaving it empty.
exclusive.
All the time.
All the time, no, nothing else
Um,
happening in there at all, right.
So.
But
I'm
if
struggling
there's
with
no lactating mother in the building, and you know, like, you could go years in one building without anyone needing
Right, but if we're gonna
to
define the
use
policy
it.
as exclusive and no other activity at all, period, can be used in that room, then it'll just sit empty. And that's what we just.
So
decided.
you have a special event though, that
Right.
a lactating mother needs to use that room, then, well, I gotta move all these chairs out first, then you can use it.
And I was a sub who worked in every building.
Yeah.
And so I'm not, I know I'm literally one person, but there might be more
Sure.
like me.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it'd be a wonderful thing to do, and I hope there are some, our future of education.
Yeah, I
kids,
would
more
love
kids
for
come through.
more people to feel like they get.
Right, right. So next month, what I can do, if you'd like, is just bring back, I don't know how detailed the plan I can get, but we can definitely try to identify what it would look like if we had a completely empty space in every building and where that would be.
'Cause I can't get past that exclusive portion. It is quote unquote exclusively for
Sure.
that purpose, and any definition that you look up will support that.
Right, and so some districts have taken that word out,
Right.
and that's, MSB is not recommending that, but
Right.
some districts for that person have just adjusted the policy, taken the word out.
So what's the law say though? What's the, I mean, you
I
say
can
this
look
is
it
law,
up.
so where's?
Yeah, let's see, I can look up the statute if you give me a minute.
If you
Find
could
it.
link us to that statute at some
Yeah.
point.
It should be House Bill 2021. It didn't have the statute number there.
It's House Bill 432.
Right, from 2021. Let's see here.
But I'm like you, I think if we just bring back each leader of each building, give us a proposal of what room that they would like for that to be used, whether it's exclusive or not.
Well, what we'll try to do is do what I'm kind of hearing from Sarah and Roger is, what would it look like if we could just dedicate a space? Like here, it would require me moving somebody out of an office and putting them in a cubicle in the center. We could make it happen, but it would definitely disrupt how we operate here at central office. But we could have an office, that space that's not used for anything, but we'd have to move somebody out of an office into a cubicle space.
But why can't they be just moved out of that, instead of making it exclusive, why can't they just be moved out of that office during the time someone would need it to be?
Right, and that's how we would normally do it,
Right.
is if someone needs it, like, we have a lot of people in here for different PD
Sure.
opportunities throughout the school year, every day this room's used for different things. And so if someone asks, that's what we do, we have an office that we typically tell people to leave, and then they use that facility.
So state law is exclusive, it's for the exclusive use of women to express breast milk or breast
Oh,
milk.
great.
breast
Define it.
milk.
Great.
Yeah, so it's.
So, but how do they
House
define
Bill
these?
432, 160, 3005.1.
Right, so does it say, can you read that again, Roger?
So,
Wilson?
find it again.
In all the legalese.
Yeah, right.
So, number 2, district policy shall require each school building to contain a suitable accommodation for the form of a room, or in the form of a room other than a restroom for the exclusive use of women to express breast milk or breastfeed a child. Such accommodation shall be located in close proximity to a sink with running water and a refrigerator for the breast milk storage, and have at a minimum the following features: ventilation and a door that may be locked, a work surface and chair, conveniently placed electrical outlets, the Department of Elementary. So basically, it says what our policy says.
Right, I think they just copy and pasted it, yeah.
Yeah, so the state law, so I mean, I kind of see it black and white. We have to provide a room.
Sure.
Now, in close proximity of a refrigerator, it doesn't have to have a refrigerator.
Correct, right.
And it doesn't have to have running water, it has to be in close
Right, so like your
proximity.
central office, we could use an office here, and then we could have,
Yeah.
somebody that uses the sink and fridge.
Yeah, no
back
one
here.
might,
So-
I mean, it's totally fine to just. use
Right.
it.
So what I do see is debatable is school building, right? So do we need two? Do we, in this building, right? Do we need one in this
Okay,
side and
so-
one on that side? This is one building, right?
Right, so I define the school building as a building owned by the school district.
Right, so would you need two here?
I would think so, probably.
See, and I would say,
I'm
that's gonna
wondering
be
if it would
debatable.
just be a school building that has students.
Right, but we have more, like, mothers that are coming here, because our staff come here.
Oh, yeah,
During like PD
and
days,
stuff,
during the
so-
day.
And that would be great for them
Right,
to have.
right. So it's really whatever direction the board wants to go, but we can, like I said, we can come back next month and say, this is what the plan would be, and this is how we'd have to displace people or staff under current construction. We could say, well, let's go, and then we can approve the policy one way or the other, so we have a policy approved. We can always amend the policy later, if we need to, but we can get the policy approved and amend it, or we can approve it tonight, and then keep talking about this for the next couple of weeks.
How to solve the problem and hold it.
Right, so at least meet the requirement of.
So how many buildings did we say we had?
What was-
Around 12.
10, 12, yeah.
12 times
Say 20,000
each.
each, just say. I mean, it's not that, but just, I mean, you're only $240,000.
Well, it just depends if it's exterior room or not.
Right,
And if you
you're
have
gonna
to
get,
add HVAC.
you're gonna get some buildings where you don't have to build anything.
Right, right. Like Alpha could probably do it pretty easily by doing
Right,
it.
you know, you're a few thousand.
240,000.
Right. So, I think you have to do it, and I think you have to do it in each building, and I think it has to be exclusive. And I would want it to be exclusive.
Is it exclusive during the activity or?
That's
is it
exactly-
that's my point.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
And that's what we asked our
I'm
legal
looking
counsel
at
and
this
MSBA
as
about,
exclusive during
and they
the-
didn't give us any direction. They just, we don't know until.
Can we reach out to our state rep and find out what?
Well, I don't know that he would be, we'd want our attorneys to.
So if you just Google exclusively and look at that definition, it will give you that answer.
And it doesn't help because exclusively can be during that time or exclusively can be 365 days a year. I mean.
Okay.
Right, but like.
I don't see it that way, you guys can.
Sure, and so what we can do is bring it back to plan though, and say this is what it would look like, and then how do we, that's definitely doable, of where we're gonna go.
And even if you thought that, it's still not putting that person in a good position to come knock on a door and ask someone if they can have their room. Or if they can remove the chairs so they can use that room.
Sure, and typically what we have happens, I mean, this isn't a new problem,
Right.
right? Because it's been going on for years and years and years. Is someone will tell us, hey, I've got a pump, do you have space? Like, oh yeah, sure, here's what, come on over here, and then we make it work. But you're right, it would be wonderful to have just a space that's dedicated. Now, there are two people in the room at the same time, I don't know how that works, but I guess we just have to take turns, yeah, or something. But yeah, we can definitely come up with a plan and see where we get, where we are.
I think my suggestion would be kind of start where we're talking about from, figure out in each building what it would take to get an actual exclusive room that's only used for this purpose, and at least start from a budget standpoint. What's it going to mean? Right? Because if it's half the buildings, it's going to cost a little bit, and the other half the buildings is going to cost a lot. Right? It's kind of hard to get my mind wrapped around what we're even asking for from a budget standpoint, and then maybe go go from there on our interpretation of exclusive, which is obviously up for debate because
We can make
We
it
go different
exclusive
ways,
during
right.
certain times of the day, and that's, if they can abide by that kind of schedule. We have an exclusive room, it's available at 1 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 3 o'clock, or whatever you want to say. And I don't know if that works or it doesn't work. I personally have done that, so I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I've never breastfed.
Yeah.
Just go on record.
Go there.
But I'm just looking at it from this angle. There's a reason why there's,
It makes a difference.
Yeah, there's a reason why that word or that term exclusive is in there.
Well, I think the reason why is because what was happening is people had to be in the same room with other people. People had to be in restrooms. I really can't imagine the spirit of this law being, I want every school district and every school building in the state to build a new facility. But maybe so. If that's the way we interpret it, that's what we'll do.
Okay, so it sounds like we're gonna need to hear a little bit more information on this and table it till next month. Is that what I'm hearing?
But regardless, we'll have to vote in June
Yeah.
to get something approved. Now, we can always amend that, just so you know that, but.
So I guess in June, we're voting whether or not how we're going to interpret the law.
Right, so I don't know that the policy itself would change, so we could even approve it tonight, and unless you want to change the policy, change the wordage there. Like I said, MSBA reported that some districts have taken the word exclusively out. We could add like when in use, exclusively when in use. But the MSBA recommendation was not to change that because, like you said, Roger, they just copied and pasted the law and put it in place. So.
I think the only reason why I would be interested in waiting to vote on the policy is my own integrity. I don't like the idea of voting for a policy that we might not be upholding.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to know how we're going to uphold it before I would vote. I don't want to pretend or hope. I want to know.
You gotta have a plan.
Yeah.
So I move the adoption of these policies with the exception of policy EBBC for tonight.
I'll second.
A motion has been made and seconded to adopt the policies other than EBBC tonight. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Staffing plan.
Yep, so we've had some increase, well, not necessarily increase, we're hoping to make do with our current staffing with the high school. We have about 40 kids or so more going to the high school than we did last year. I remember my numbers might be 50, 40 or 50, somewhere in there. And we just need an additional teaching position in the high school. Then we'd like to just add just a buffer position. We won't actually hire that person until we know enrollment. So like if kindergarten enrollment's higher, we anticipated we have a buffer position in there.
So what you're saying is our 8th grade class now is 40 or 50 students larger than the graduating class?
That's correct.
Okay.
I think
that's what I thought.
Like 230, I think, around ballpark for 8th grade, about 190 for seniors.
I make a motion to approve the staffing plan as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the staffing plan as presented. Is there any further discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. New business, Care to Learn.
Okay, so we've been using Care to Learn for, I think, 8 years now, and they provide health, hunger, and hygiene needs to kids. And they've normally been running all our administrative duties for that organization for free for all this time. They're now charging organizations to do that. So my recommendation would be the district would pick up this $1,500 to pay for that cost. Most of the funds that are raised from Care to Learn come from staff out of their pockets. So we can continue, so either the district can pay for this to support our students, or it'll come out of the district account, which they could afford. But again, I think it'd be probably in my opinion, the right thing to do for the district to sponsor this. But go however you feel.
Yeah, I would advocate for us covering this cost of $1,500. The cost of it is so small in comparison to the impact, especially, I know Dr. Jones is not able to talk about our homeless or migrant population, but I know that Care to Learn does so much for that population for school district, and so I believe in the work that they're doing.
Sure, like they do things that the district won't cover. Like for example, if there's a need at the home, like bed bugs in their house, they'll go in and hire an exterminator to get rid of the bed bugs, buy new mattresses, take care of the kids in that regard. Where the district, that's not appropriate necessarily for school district funds to be used. So this is kind of the above and beyond type of service that needs to happen, and Care to Learn steps in to fill that.
Well, like providing new tennis shoes for a child who can't participate in PE because they can't afford a pair of tennis shoes. Just some of it's little things and some of it's much bigger things like you were talking about. Like, but it's important, I think.
I make a motion to approve the contract as presented.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the Care to Learn contract. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Now we have surveying of baseball field.
Right, so you've been by our baseball field, you see in the left field, all the way to the fence, there's some real drainage problems there. It's even hard to mow, which isn't great for a baseball field. So it needs to get fixed. The original plan was to get just a survey, let's just get a look at it and see what we want to do here, so we can either just get an idea of what's going on. But I was talking to Roger earlier this week, and he had a better idea. So I'm going to turn it over to Roger and kind of what Roger was thinking. And really the goal is let's fix the problem. But I also didn't know where the board was on committing funds to fix this problem or not. But this has been our first step to.
And the batting cage area, there's drainage problem there. That's on the left side of the field too.
That's not necessarily the playing surface. So the playing surface is really a problem.
Right.
So Roger, what do we do?
So you've got a few issues there. And I went and met with Kevin Fowler and the baseball team, or the coaches there, and kind of looked at what their problems were, what their needs were, what they were kind of asking from the board for what they needed to do. I came up with a couple ideas, and what I kind of thought would work. I met today with a construction person that does landscaping, irrigation, and those type of things, and kind of ran my plan by him, and he agreed, and kind of thought that what I was proposing would work. And did you have those pictures available?
I don't have them right here.
No worries.
Okay.
So there's what the main problem is the water coming off of the hillside into the batting cage area. All that water runs into the batting cages and down alongside of the field, and then about 50 or 60 feet from the corner of the baseball field, it runs into the field, and then is currently washing out to that ditch along the roadway. So you've got a few, and then on top of that, the entire drainage of that left field corner dips down into that as well. So you've got compounding waters from the hillside and the baseball field all converging into that corner. And then on top of that, over the years, the sedimentation and of that clean rock that filters into that drainage has just been clogged with sediment. So that is now acting like a dam and just holding all that water there. So what we kind of talked about was back up at basically behind the dugout, creating an inlet, kind of like what we have up by the concession stands. We've all kind of walked by those. Something to collect water there and just shoot that all the way down to the inlet underground. So that takes a big, it would actually just dump into the storm sewer.
Oh, great.
So that takes all of that water. We're not going to try and funnel that water anywhere else down to it. So that just takes a lot of that water from the baseball field and from that hill and just gets rid of it right away. And so then you've got the task of the drainage alongside where the batting cages would be. So that area would need to be reworked and create some proper drainage down to that corner. And then by doing that, you would also be able, by getting rid of the water ahead of the cages, that would allow the cages to stay right next to the field and their bullpen. And so you would be able to create the space for the batting cages right next to the fence as well. And then also, that third, so that takes care of the two problems, the water coming off the hill, the cages. Well, then you would also have to address that ball field corner in that left field that's pooling that water. and we would probably have to pull that fence out in that corner. The fence could go back in, but that whole area kind of just needs to be reworked a little bit. Some imported materials to bring that back up. And as what you would see when you walk out there is the baseball field wants to kind of go to the road, but at that fence, you've got on the other side of the fence where that water's supposed to be going, I think it's higher, and I think it's just from, killing the grass, along the fence, and it just created, over the years, created a berm, so it just pushes all that water into that corner. So, I think it's doable, and I think, me personally, that's not a huge project, it requires a lot of engineering. I would propose that we as a school district, or, John Chandler set up a list of criteria. Hey, we want an inlet here, we want batting cage pad here, we want this drainage to go around here, we want this fixed, and just let them design build that portion. So we're setting the criteria. It's up to them to make it happen and send it out to bid that way.
But we could save the money that we would otherwise spend on a survey.
Correct.
And that plan, all of that work, which could be $15,000.
Yeah, right.
We could
Ballpark, yeah.
save that and use it to actually help fix the problem.
Correct.
Right?
That's what I would agree to that. That's what I would think needs to happen. It's just let these guys do this for a living, right? It's not a hard project. It, in my opinion, needs that engineering. When we did the softball field, of course, that was a big project, a lot of area that we needed that. So I would propose.
We just needed you to go look at this, Roger.
Right.
I told you
appreciate
that.
So I'm gonna say I actually appreciate you doing that, because when I read this the other day or the week, I thought the same thing. Like, we can surely save this $15,000 and just figure out how to get rid of the water,
right?
Without spending $15,000 to pay somebody to tell us how to get rid of the water.
And
right.
I showed that to my surveyor husband, and he said, "Why do you need a survey?"
Yeah.
So that's where I started from.
So one, I went and looked at it. I think it's doable. I brought a professional in. He thinks it's doable. Now it's the funding and what if we want to fund it and what that budget is.
Right. So we could we're building a budget now for things, and so we can put this in our Fund 4 account. My ballpark is in my head is about 50,000, but we can go lower than that or whatever you think. Or do you see the bids come in and go from there?
I asked my professional and I said, would 50,000 cover it? And he agreed to 50,000 would cover it. In talking with Coach Burley, he did mention that there was families that could assist and pull, and that's kind of what we did at the softball field. We did a lot of it ourselves. So as we're building what that criteria is that we want to bid out, I wouldn't want to have parents do the major portions of it, but if they want to hang up batting nets or pull the fences down and things of that nature, I think we're good. But I would like to bid out the major work for sure, and getting the concrete poured and things of that nature. So, and I think 50,000, 60,000 is pretty.
Yeah, I don't
pretty
know.
adequate.
Maybe we could set up, just kind of a conversation, but then we can look at the bids and say this is doable or not.
Right.
Go from there.
But I think we want to build that into the budget for next year,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, so I'll just put it in the budget. But we don't really need a formal motion on that.
Right.
Kind of a conversation. I'll just kind of direct it for me to build the budget, put that to the side, and so that we're not tying ourselves into a little bit more or a little less. We just have it there.
Right. I just wanted to make sure it was in the budget, so when it comes to it, it's built in.
Right. So I'll put 50,000. Kind of earmark that with the Fund 4 for that project.
But it's definitely, and it's also an eyesore down there. We're building this, making all these improvements, and that area is definitely an eyesore. Everybody sees it when they pull in. So a nice new maintained area would definitely help that appearance.
We don't need water standing somewhere either.
The main thing is it's the field. I mean, we can cancel games just because of that situation, so that our kids can't play.
You can't mow it when it's water standing.
Right. And this spring has definitely highlighted the issues there.
Yes.
I said this to you the other day. I'm certainly not against fixing the problem. I just didn't know if we needed the whole survey expense and stuff.
I think it's a great idea. I think Roger's right on. you know, we were just trying, we didn't know if we were gonna have volunteers do it or how we were gonna do it. We wanted to get kind of lay of the land. But, I'm perfectly fine with this. So I don't know if, I don't know if we need a motion on this or just, we're just not gonna do anything. We've had our conversation, I know my direction, that's fine.
Right, and
Yeah.
then when you get bids,
Yeah.
we can approve a
Right.
bid, perhaps. We can
Right.
talk about it again then.
Right.
So we do not need to all vote no right now? We
No.
don't.
Yeah,
We just don't make a
don't make
motion,
a motion,
so-
it doesn't move
Okay.
forward, yeah, so,
Right.
yeah, we'll just go with that.
I didn't, I thought
If you just hit refresh, Lucy, it'll be there.
I did.
Yeah.
It didn't show up.
It left where it was, but it didn't show up in new business.
Oh, I've got it under
But I
what I
just
see.
reminded Ginger that we needed to
That's what we're
vote
doing
on
next.
that.
Why
So
did it move?
I move the adoption of the personnel sheet, or approval of the personnel sheet, I guess I should say.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve personnel sheet. Is there any further discussion?
Just ask for a roll call vote, please.
Yes, I will do that, Roger. We'll do a roll call vote.
Is that for C under new business? then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And thanks
Yes, it
for
didn't move.
understanding my reason for wanting to change the order of things we were doing tonight, because I thought that was important.
Rich, we'll start with you.
Yes.
Jeff?
Aye.
Roger?
I'll abstain.
Frankie?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Deanna?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Motion passes. Next, we have policy first reads.
Yep, this is JGR. This is our student discipline policy, so we'll vote on this next month.
So previous to this, one of the things that I saw was that if a student is filming a fight and uploads it to social media, they would also have
Correct.
discipline. So up until now, that's not a policy?
Well, it just is gray area. And
Yeah.
so this gives us a little bit more definitive direction.
That's super important, that's starting
Yeah.
to happen. I haven't seen something in our school, I just have seen
Right.
it in other schools that
Right.
that's been going on, and so I think that that's a really important thing to happen.
Right.
So I haven't read these yet, I admit. So can we talk about that just a little bit?
Sure.
Can you explain that one to me, please?
Yeah, basically, if kids are standing around, there's a fight happening, kids are all pull out their phones, record the whole thing, and then they post it up, that could be a discipline infraction.
And it's not just for a fight, it's like filming anything at school that is a discipline
Right.
issue, and then uploading it, posting it to social
Right.
media would also be a disciplinary
Right.
incident, because that's just not good for people to be.
Well, sure, it just keeps spreading, it causes
Right.
problems at school and.
Right, and I think there's even stuff in there about like videoing in the
Sure.
restroom or something, just we
Right,
don't
so
want
everything
that
has to have
stuff.
a nexus to school though, so no matter if they would do that, we'd have to show that there had to be some connection to disrupting the learning at school, so.
Oh, right.
So as long as there's that nexus, they've posted that and, they're not supposed to do that, we still have to make that connection that there's disruption at school. So.
You said other schools are doing this?
I don't know.
No, I was
believe-
saying that I have seen this to be an issue in other schools.
So are we not concerned about First Amendment right violations?
Well, if it's at school, and then there's a disruption at school, this has been clearly established that if there's a nexus to disruption at the school, that
But-
we can discipline that.
So you're saying that, so I could come in and record in school, right?
Yeah, you can, sure.
Right,
As an adult.
so a student should, I think, has that right too. I mean, I'm not a lawyer.
Sure.
So
Well,
by
there's-
them just documenting a situation.
Oh, they can record it, that's fine, but if they would upload it.
So that's
and
the
they-
same, that's still.
No, but so we still have to prove that there's a nexus to school, that's kind of the term. If there's a disruption to the student learning at school, then it can be disciplined. So if they post it up online and there's no problems at school, then that's not gonna be an issue. But if it's, okay, we're now passing this around, everybody in the hallway talking about it, disrupting, it causes more of an issue, another fight develops because of this one, there's a nexus to school and learning. And so that's where it gets kind of tricky sometimes, but it definitely is within the bounds of the school to discipline a student if there's a nexus to the learning at school.
That can also be a form of bullying.
Mm-hmm.
So, a student is victimized and then they're re-victimized online. And especially as a parent, I can't imagine viewing a video on social media of my child doing something or receiving something. And so I mean, it could really perpetuate a lot of cyberbullying.
But there's also First Amendment right, though, that.
If it causes disruption at school, we can discipline. Right? So you'll fire in a movie theater.
That's not right, though. We're getting into some tricky territory, right?
Not necessarily. This has been pretty clearly defined. If there's a discipline disruption that disrupts the learning in school, school can issue discipline.
But the simple act of recording an act and then posting that act on YouTube is not a disciplinary action.
Well, it could be just a conference with the principal and called home.
It's like there's a order. Like it's not that student's automatically suspended. It's that there's an order. Now that's part of our discipline.
Right. So the main thing is we would just put it in there to talk about it. And this was developed by our committee, discipline committee. And Dr. Jones will be here next month to talk more about the committee and how they came up with this.
Right, because this is first read. So
this is first read. Yeah.
Right. I know. I guess that's why I wanted to expand on it because it seems very, very tricky. And you start denying these kids their rights, and we've got.
Is it really a right to be able to record? You're not even in it. Like you're recording a fight and then posting. Why?
That's a right, though.
Yeah, but according to the law, school districts have a pretty strong.
Yeah, this is very
right to check at the door when it comes to the schools a lot of times in certain situations. So.
Yeah, Tinker is the big case on school rights, and so talk about the kids wearing the armbands, and that's known as the Supreme Court. So the rulings on this have been very clear on where.
Well, that's why I asked what other schools are doing. Nobody.
I don't know. I wouldn't look that up and find out, but I'm sure that they're.
I know right now there's a school in Southwest Missouri that's kind of got carried away this week with this is going on a lot.
It is.
And I don't know what's happening. I just know that I saw it on social media myself that a parent posted, just said, please, they want people to contact Facebook and say, get them to stop this or whatever. So I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, I get it. I wouldn't want that.
Right.
I'm just saying that's a tricky area.
Well,
that is a First Amendment right.
But then you could then defend bullying. I'm allowed to do. I'm allowed to say horrible things because
I didn't say that.
I'm not saying.
You're taking a video, right? I'm going to take a video of an action. I have that right to take a video of that action. I then have that right to whatever that action is in public, post that on YouTube or any social media platform that I choose.
Without anyone's consent.
Correct. In a public setting.
That's accurate. Roger's accurate about that.
So now what I do with that is then up to disciplinary action, right? If I say, hey, look at this video of so-and-so, we should go do this to them. Now is that your nexus that you're talking about?
That's an example.
That would be right, exactly. Or even
but the simple act of videoing an altercation at school.
But it's not just an altercation, Roger. I know you said you didn't have a chance to look at them, so you will before next month, right? But I think it even says something about like videotaping kids in the restroom in the locker room, which I think we can all agree is inappropriate.
But the terminology was brought up of fights.
That was one example.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that's tricky. And
absolutely, our principals are dealing with that today. That stuff's happening now, and they're making their best judgment calls on what to do and where to code that. And so the idea is that we have a situation. We want to be able to go back and look at our data and see what's happening. I mean, that's really what this coding is about. The behaviors aren't changing. Like this isn't a new behavior. It's still happening. We're still issuing discipline for things that have a nexus to school. This is just identifying how we're going to code this behavior.
And it is talking about bullying. So students recording or posting a bullying incident to social media will also be counted in this infraction because that is perpetuating bullying.
I kind of see that, but the act of me filming Jeff bullying Ginger and posting that on YouTube, I am not.
It's a form of bullying. That's what some people
That
would
is a
say.
First Amendment right.
Well, and that would be the debate really for each. And that's what's so hard about discipline policies, is because every case is so individualized. And so you have to look at it and look at each, and that's where our assistant principals, we have some outstanding assistant principals who do a really wonderful job with this, of kind of breaking down, okay, is there a connection in school? Did this disrupt the learning because of this posting? So if 2 or 3 kids come to you and are upset about it, and they're talking about it in their class, and the teacher's like, hey, you need to go talk to the counselor, that's disruptive learning.
But feelings don't trump laws and rights.
No, but if it's disruptive learning, it does. It causes disruption of the school day.
So imagine you're the, sorry.
That's okay.
So imagine you're the victim, and now there's this video going around school of you. That's gonna totally disrupt all of those people's day, that person's day, like that person might, who knows what would happen. Like to me, I understand that we're looking at it differently. I view that as perpetuating bullying.
Well, they could go so far, Roger, as to, Jeff bullies Ginger, you videotape that, you put it on YouTube, Facebook, and you say, I challenge everybody else on the board to do this same thing to Ginger. It's how it's used.
Right, and that's what I said, the simple act of recording.
No,
is
but
not,
it's how
that's,
it's
and that's what I'm
used.
saying, you have to be very careful at that.
Sure.
Right, it's the same thing.
Because I would say I would bring a lawsuit pretty quickly.
But it's about how it's used
exactly.
or what else
the
is
simple act of
posted
recording
with. Yeah, but that
is
doesn't.
a protected right.
It doesn't say just because they
as long as it doesn't
recorded
interrupt
it.
the school day.
Right, as long as it doesn't cause disruption in schools, then that's fine.
But what other people view that, right? And they say, oh, well, that makes me feel bad and upset, which they're right to that feeling.
Then you could just be disciplined.
But I would say that's not right.
But that's how it works. And that's the situation. So we try to protect all students, and if you're causing problems and it's disrupting the school day, now. So
Even on a First Amendment protected activity.
Yes, at school, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So read Tinker, the Tinker case. It's fascinating. Yeah, Tinker. Fascinating case about some armed bandits. It's a Supreme Court landmark case on this, and it's a good one. And this one.
And read the policy just
Right.
to see how it's working.
Right, and this is, like I said, the behavior hasn't changed, and we're still issuing discipline for this behavior. Now, it's just how we code it. So this is really just how you code that behavior whenever you have a nexus at school on the discipline. So we're still disciplining students now if they are posting videos that's causing disruptions at school. Might be under, might call it bullying or harassment or something like that, but this gives us a clear code to be able to look at it and determine what's happening.
Okay, so we all have some homework before next meeting to educate ourselves more.
And I'll come back and I might say you guys are right now.
I believe
you
too. And we won't make fun of you.
But
I will, because I get bullied all the time.
Yeah, I'll talk to Jeff about that.
Please. We are going to move on to the miscellaneous, and we have celebrations, which is something we talked about at our last work session, just to try to, as board members, find some positive things to focus on. And so I'm going to go first because I'm a former kindergarten teacher. And so this time of year, there's all the kindergarten graduations, which I love so much when I taught. And I think a couple of the buildings might not have had theirs yet, but the Daniel Boone one did have theirs, and it was very, very well attended. We had tons of parents there. They were so happy and jubilant to get to watch their kids do graduation. So I'm glad that we do small things to celebrate even a first step, which is what getting through kindergarten is, a first step. If anybody else has something they want to share, you can do so at this time.
I went to the senior awards night. It was that last week?
Yeah.
Yes. So I know Rich was there and Dr. Klainsmith. I don't think there were any other board members there. Yeah, no, that's good, but I just wanted to say that I'm always so amazed and so proud of this community and how many local scholarships, how much money is given, and you may still know a dollar figure, but I don't, but Tanya would if she were here, right? But just, it amazes me and it makes me so proud of our community and proud to be a part of this community. And we recognize the WISE Foundation, that's a big part of it. I was sitting next to a senior who had done a lot of work filling out applications for scholarships, and that work paid off for her. She got a lot of scholarships, and I was really happy to see that. But I said something about, well, I know you'll get a WISE scholarship if you fill that out. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, everybody who fills out an application, I think that's been the way it's been for a while, gets, you know, because we've been able, the WISE Foundation has raised the money to fund that. Everybody who fills out an application generally gets that scholarship. And she was like, oh my goodness, she was just really excited because she was already getting several and knowing that she was going to get at least one more. And she has 3 younger siblings coming up soon who they'll have to pay for their college too, so she was really excited. And I just makes me proud of the community.
Well, I've got a long list.
Uh-oh.
Because this is my favorite part of the night. You mentioned the students on the board tonight, and that was really cool. But I also want to shout out to the high school counselors. They do a lot of work when it comes to this.
That's right.
All the ladies are to be commended, and I really appreciate all the work that they do because I've seen it firsthand. And I know the young lady that won our family scholarship was here tonight too. So it's Rachel Moore. So that was really cool to see her tonight. She actually gave me a thumbs up. So that was kind of cool. I also want to talk a little bit about the golf program. Gabe Frederick was the player of the year in the GAC North. That's a big accomplishment. That's a thing that's you accomplish throughout the whole year. It's not just one tournament. You have to get points every match, and the person that has the most points at the end of the season gets to be the player of the year. Really tough to do, and Gabe Frederick, and I've seen personally how hard Gabe worked. I work at the golf course, and he comes out a lot this summer and fall, and even in the winter and warm days came out and really did a great job. And so he was the player of the year, and then they went to districts last week, and Bryce Goulet, who also used to work at the golf course. Both those boys worked with me at the golf course at one time or another, and put a lot of work into it. And he is representing the golf program this weekend in state down in Bloomfield, and which leads me to Coach Dingerson and Coach Holt, and doing a great job with the golf program. Coach Holt's been a part of that program since 2008 when I took over. I asked him to be my volunteer assistant, and he has kept doing it since 2008, volunteering every year to work with those kids, and does a great job. And Coach Dingerson, Coach Griffin, all the coaches that we've had after me really appreciate Coach Holt. So Coach Dingerson and Coach Holt, a shout out to those guys too.
Last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, and on social media I saw a lot of PTOs at the elementary level focus and try their best to spoil the teachers throughout the week. And so I know, as someone who's on the PTO, a lot of parents are looking forward to being more involved in the coming years after 2 years of supporting looking a lot different. And so I just always love seeing that positive experience from parents supporting schools.
So I think you guys all know my tie to the ag department and the FFA, but last week was the area FFA banquet. So for those not familiar with FFA, the area is basically Northeast Missouri, a small portion of Northeast Missouri. But we had a young lady that participates in FFA that was actually selected as an area officer, which is quite an honor. You go through a pretty rigorous application and interview process. So I don't know if it's okay to mention names or not, but it's Kelsey Muller, who's very active in FFA and actually very active in a lot of things in the entire community. So I think that's something to celebrate as well, because it doesn't happen, I'll be honest, it doesn't happen that often for the Warrenton FFA program. And I think there's only 8 officers selected, so it's a good deal.
Anybody else? Okay, we will move on to May 26th, work session topics.
Or maybe not May 26th.
Right.
Right, and so the only thing I have, and we can talk about other things if we want, but the only thing I had on there that we probably need to talk about is MSIP 6. We need to probably talk about it in May or June, I would think, before the new school year. This is our new accreditation system that we probably need to spend some time just understanding and going through. But we could do that in June. June will also be doing the budget at that time. That normally doesn't take too long.
We just have several people who have conflicts that night.
Oh, sure, yeah, we don't even have to have a meeting. I mean, we can do this, and unless there's other topics you want to talk about.
My daughter has a program at Warrior Ridge that evening, and so I was gonna be coming and leaving the meeting pretty quickly. And so, I am interested in hearing about M66. I'm willing to do it on a different night. I'm available other evenings, but I'm also, if it's not pressing or.
It's not pressing.
Then I'm fine with not having a work session if other people are busy as well.
It's the FFA Awards
Yeah.
banquet that night again. I think it was last year too. Didn't you run out of here and over there?
Yeah.
Was that last year?
It's also on the ECSE graduation, and I don't know if they're holding it here or where. I don't know where they would be holding it.
I'd wait to be here. Yeah.
So
maybe
does
just
the park
not-
lot going to be really full
Sure.
too?
This is not a pressing issue. We can talk about it at the end of June.
So you feel like we would have enough time in June to do this and the financial
I do.
stuff?
I think the financial stuff's taking us, trying to remember, about an hour maybe.
Okay.
And then this will take 30, 45, just depends how many questions we have about it, maybe 30 minutes.
How's everybody feel about just combining them into June and skipping May?
Well, I'm really disappointed. I just want to go on record to say that I thought that the school board only met once a month. And this is my 4th meeting in the first month on the board, so just for those that don't know, it's not once a month. I vote aye.
Okay, we don't have to vote, do we? Can we
No.
just say we're canceling? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So then we have to set our next monthly meeting.
That has to
That's on the
happen.
record.
I make a motion to set the regular meeting for June 9th, 2022 at 7 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to set the next regular meeting for June 9th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll need to set the closed session to immediately precede the regular June meeting.
So move.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to set the closed session to immediately precede the June 9th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Everybody's favorite motion's coming up next. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Blue Star, 5 minutes.
Perfect.
Yes.
8 grand each, 28 square feet.
You got for me.
I've been in that.
So we're bringing it to us.
Yes. Yeah, we should find out if that would happen.
And then I would contact
Well, that's our last Fox night for the Lion King with my granddaughter. But I'm just saying.
Thank you. I didn't hear what you said.
Thanks, Clark. Give it a seat.
Yeah, but that's a good idea to check into, especially.
Hey, Mr. Shaw?
Yes, sir.
Can I get an answer sheet for this?
Oh, I forgot. I should probably take those back, shouldn't I?